Welcome to the Sustainability Podcast's newest series, America's Path to Net Zero. This series is dedicated to the investment made by the U.S. in the pursuit of a net zero emissions and a greener tomorrow. In the next 4 episodes, I will be covering emerging industries, established technologies, future policies, and the impact of the Inflation Reduction Act. The featured guests include ARC's finest analyst and the founder of the American Energy Society. I hope this series leaves you with a better understanding of the Inflation Reduction Act, emerging decarbonization technologies, and your role in the energy transition. Hello, welcome to the Sustainability Podcast. I am your host, Gaven Simon. I am joined today by Peter Manos, my colleague on the Energy Transition Industrial Sustainability team here at the ARC Advisory Group. Peter, how are you doing today?
Very well, Gavin. How are you?
Doing pretty swell. I'm looking forward to having this conversation with you. The Inflation Reduction Act is always something that we're throwing around, and the IRA is always being thrown around, and you always have some really great insight on it. And so I wanted to get started with, can we just have a little bit of a background of yourself?
Sure. Well, my background-wise, I've been in the electric utility industry since engineering school in the mid-'80s with Con Edison in New York City as an engineer, and been doing various, product strategic consulting for product marketing, advising solution providers, benchmarking end users in the utility community, and also a lot of cross-industry work around things that asset-intensive industries have in common and the solutions that are helping them to perform better. So at ARC Advisory Group for the last 2 years, my work has been right in the areas that I mentioned and covers a lot of the key trends that relate to the benefits and the platforms and equipment involved in what we're talking about today, which is the Inflation Reduction Act. So it's just an enormous injection into the U.S. economy of initiatives that are going to enable manufacturers to be incented to do more manufacturing domestically, to ensure our energy security, as well as, most importantly, enable us to further accelerate the uptake of renewable sources of energy and electric vehicles. So the related infrastructure for all that is all around the smart grid to a large extent, because you need to have all that real-time data on a smart electric grid as well as smart infrastructure in a lot of other areas to go forward with the greatest economic and environmental and social quality of life benefits that we want to achieve as a country.
Awesome. I mean, you just killed that first answer. My first question was going to be, what is the goal of the Inflation Reduction Act in your own words? And would you want to add on
Sure.
that, or would you like to?
Oh, yeah, it is. It's important to look at that goal and to talk about some of the misunderstandings or criticisms that are very superficial. There are certainly things of substance to be debated, and we should welcome informed policy debate. The Inflation Reduction Act is, I think, appropriately named. It is helping economies across all major industrial sectors in the U.S., and as well as being of great value for both urban, suburban, and rural communities in the U.S. And it is not saying that there will be no inflation. It's saying it's going to reduce inflation. Well, how do you benchmark that? How do you measure that? How do you even debate about it? Well, you need to be looking at 2 scenarios, right? One with the Inflation Reduction Act and one without, and say, is it reducing inflation? That would be, the right attitude to have, rather than making fun of it as if it was just a marketing ploy to name it the Inflation Reduction Act. Tens of thousands of farms in rural America have, on average, received $40,000 each since the act was enacted, and that 40,000 farms, 40,000 each. That's a big number right there, and that's only a small part of it. That 160 billion. And rural America is only a part of it as well. So the ability to have, in the long term, more reliable and resilient infrastructure and greater affordability for both small, medium, large businesses, as well as people looking at their residential monthly, utility bills, those things really matter, and the Act is helping across all of that. Everything from heat exchangers to energy efficiency investments, to the reducing the large energy waste when it comes to managing facilities, homes, businesses. That part of the bill is big, and then yes, more wind turbines, more solar, rooftop solar and solar farms, and getting all of that interconnected and operating in real time, and enabling electric vehicle infrastructure to tap into as much renewable energy as possible. Those are really anti-inflationary. They do help reduce people's monthly energy bills, along with the other benefits.
Agreed. So that was all positive and great. What has been the major pushbacks on the Inflation Reduction Act? And maybe you can touch upon the pushback before it was enacted and the pushback now that it's been enacted and investment and money is already being dispersed.
The fact that we're talking about legislation, there's a famous saying, you don't want to know what goes into making sausage or legislation behind the scenes, because the final product might taste good, it might be good legislation, good sausage, but it's not necessarily the purest of principles in those negotiation backroom negotiation conversations that we don't know about. So I think, putting aside the very superficial criticism of the name of the act, which I think I've addressed, we're really, talking about ability to be more energy independent. So obviously, other economies are going to, outside the U.S., are going to complain and push back. And if you search for anything about France or Germany or other European major economies' response to the Inflation Reduction Act, right, you're going to see some negatives there. Because they'll say it's being isolationist, or we need to be more of a global economy, and the response to that is going to be proven by the health of both trade, international trade, going forward, and the health of the U.S. economy going forward. If our economy is unhealthy, if we're not energy independent, if we have more supply chain shocks because of unpredictable events that affect our ability to get the resources to run our economy, shame on us, and it affects everyone in the world ultimately, since we are the largest economy of any country, and the ability to attract and retain top talent is super important too. And so the more that you do domestically, end to end in the supply chain, the better. You and I both, Gavin, exchanged ideas after reviewing some recent Department of Energy publications about energy storage from the R&D, from the fundamental technology point of view, and the work that is being done to ensure that we have healthy R&D, because if you look at Andy Grove, the founder of Intel. Okay, I mean, he developed the semiconductor microprocessor, right? He said that the next equivalent of the microprocessor is going to be who wins the energy storage, those physics and chemistry challenges associated with making the best kind of battery. That's going to be like the next microprocessor. In terms of global economic competitiveness, we want to win. Of course, there's going to be pushback internationally. Now, the pushback domestically, my quick answer to that, which it includes a lot of misinformation and a lot of making things into very binary choices that really aren't true. Everything is generally more complex than the sound bites that you'll hear on either side of issues that are too divisive. But my quick answer to those who say, "Oh, you're hurting the economy by being more sustainable, being more focused on renewables. Are you picking winners and losers?" Well, no. We've been picking winners and losers in the realm of fossil fuels for a very long time. I mean, if you look at the tax payments of the oil and gas industry compared to other industries, it's everyone needs to pay their fair share. If you want to say no taxation without representation, the converse is no representation without taxation. So the lobby groups that push certain agendas behind the scenes might be talking green, but are they really trying to move forward in a green way or not? And my answer to the really more informed debate that there's genuine things to debate about from a policy and economics point of view is we need more environmental, social, corporate governance data, not less, if we want to have an informed debate, right? The way to have an informed debate is to have more data and good data that the opposing sides agree on. So to be anti-ESG is to say we don't want an informed debate, because ESG solutions that inform those investment hedge funds, the underlying software that's being used both for environmental health and safety, enterprise asset management, environmental, social, and corporate governance software on the part of asset owner operators, who are actually trying to run their machinery at their plants better and track what they're doing to be more green. That software informs the debate. That has everything in it that shows the benefits of, if you invest in worker safety and in having a less contaminants let's say in a chemical plant, so that the workers aren't inhaling, toxic fumes. You can have attract and retain employees. They're going to be healthier employees. That's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. And if you're saying, "Oh, you're overly socially engineering," I'll gladly debate the hedge fund questions. There are some valid points about specific pension funds choosing or not the way they want. But to shut down the flow of data to have a good debate, that's not American. That's not a highly principled position for anyone to take, I would say.
So, for example, let's say we have a VP of operations who is looking at the cost from the past year and still see higher costs from a new influx of renewable energy and further investment into ESG investments. How can a VP of operations make an informed opinion without the ESG data?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So, in other words, they might say, "Hey, that sounds nice, Peter, to say if you have more data about the benefits and the things you've done to improve your ESG performance and to have more renewables. That sounds nice to have more data, but it's going to make things cost more for me as an owner and operator of these industrial assets that I run here with my job at this company. So I'm still going to push back against the Inflation Reduction Act. And, that might be true in some cases, but I think in a lot of cases, it's a question of looking at the big picture and not necessarily super long term, but most companies have set pretty rigorous goals for lowering their carbon footprint, for having more of a circular economy and lower environmental impact, and even net zero by 2045, 2050. And to get from here to there, executives are being, in a lot of the compensation plans of executives at Fortune 500 companies now, they get bonuses if they meet very specific ESG and renewable energy and related goals. And so what are the benefits? That decision maker might say, you're going to make it more expensive for me, and it's going to force me to raise the price of what we sell to our industrial and commercial customers. Well, there are customers increasingly who want to meet regulations themselves and need to meet their goals by buying more sustainably sourced products and services. And in addition, if you look at your costs for maintaining a talented workforce and the ability to attract and retain top talent and the ability to transfer know-how from very experienced personnel who are retiring and the whole brain drain issue, the operational excellence and productivity and efficiency of your operations, those are supported by attracting and retaining top talent. And how do you do that? Well, having a better ESG posture, embracing some of the improvements that you can do based on the benefits of the Inflation Reduction Act for your business, those are going to have a pretty quick ROI. I mean, talented people who want the latest and greatest tools that are driven by real-time data, they get up to speed faster and they don't jump around from one company to another, one employer to another. So you can meet your goals, and in terms of your company's posture, what used to be called corporate social responsibility and is now the sustainability report and the ESG reporting that your company does. It's going to attract not only better talent to work at your company, it's going to cause the financial community and the risk assessment community and the insurance industries to look more favorably. You're going to have a lower risk profile in the eyes of a lot of decision makers in the financial community and the insurance community who really matter to your company, to your board of directors. So there's a lot of goodness there that needs to be adapted to new ways of looking at the ROI of these sorts of things.
Agreed. And I think it's pretty interesting because we have so many companies today making such an effort on ESG reporting and sustainability reporting, but the US really hasn't laid out a framework specifically for ESG reporting. So maybe, hopefully, in the coming years, I'm optimistic to see something come down the line by the federal government to give a outline for ESG reporting so everybody can be on the same page and a universal language.
Oh yeah, and the SEC has strengthened it, and you also have a lot of companies that are multinationals that are standardizing to some higher European standards that are continuing to roll out, and actually also in Europe they're expanding in terms of there's going to be tens of thousands of more companies in the mid-tier market and lower and smaller companies that are going to be getting on board with it because they have to, based on the European regulations. Another aspect of this is, we need to not be talking in generalities. If someone has a criticism of something in relation to the Inflation Reduction Act, I'd love to hear, the specific things that they think could be done better, and let's compare two options, right? That's, I think, a key principle here that you and I both agree on, and there's a lot of depth to that when you really look at it, So the pivot point is still in the future, but a way of looking at that pivot point is that the risk of not getting ahead, of being more focused on energy transition and industrial sustainability excellence instead of being like a follower, being a leader. The benefits of proactiveness are going to outweigh the safety, quote unquote, of waiting and seeing. It's not going to be worth it. It's not going to be worth it to be a laggard. You want to be a leader.
You've published a lot of work around digital twin. How can a digital twin be useful when estimating the Inflation Reduction Act's impact? Because from my understanding, a digital twin is a great way to duplicate a factory or a manufacturing facility digitally. But how can I use a digital twin to basically plot out and estimate the impact of the Inflation Reduction Act?
That's a great question, and there's a good chunk of future in what I'm about to talk about, but I think it's a future that's coming quicker than we might think. And one of the strategy reports I wrote on ESG, I had so much additional thinking around the digital twin aspect that I wrote a second piece of an ARC Insight a while back, which I called the Sustainability Singularity. And my view is, when you look at what a lot of the ARC analysts who are many decades steeped in industrial automation, they're like, we have, Ralph Rio, Craig Resnick, and several other, real digital twin experts who talk about everything from the design digital twin to operational digital twins and rolling up, pieces of equipment that you model digitally, rolling up from the factory floor to various degrees of accuracy now, starting to model the entire plant, in terms of a digital twin capability. Well, as those capabilities roll out, there's an acceleration because the computing power, cloud-based solutions are enabling huge amounts of data to actually be analyzed by these ever more powerful machine learning models and apply artificial intelligence to get all these analytical insights, right? So that you can actually fine tune not just a plant, but a fleet of plants that are owned by a single company and optimize as we, asset owners do. They optimize to maximize productivity, profitability, but now they can add and are adding constraints around lowering emissions, meeting ESG goals. So what does that have to do with my sustainability singularity and having a good debate? Well, A good debate, as we said, is about comparing different options. Should I pay more upfront for something that's more energy efficient, and maybe will have a operationally, won't have as heavy maintenance requirements because it's a more robust piece of equipment? Should I pay a premium for that upfront versus buy something that might run a little hotter, not as super energy efficient, but have a lower upfront cost? Well, if you can model things so accurately that you can model those two scenarios, you can make a better decision. And as social impacts and circular economy impacts and supply chain dependencies, there's all these other aspects up and down the industrial sustainability spectrum of workflows and information flows. As that's all modeled better and better, you're going to have digital twin models for big decisions. Like what are the economic impacts going to be of option A versus option B? If you have to build infrastructure for some specific change, like more green natural gas and blended with green hydrogen mixed into the natural gas distribution system, and enabling manufacture of ammonia and other fertilizer and other industrial feedstocks from these other work sources, to model all that and compare options. So I call it a singularity because we don't know what it's going to look like on the other side, and also because in the realm of artificial intelligence, something that's previously thought of as science fiction until recently was the singularity where the artificial intelligence becomes self-aware. Okay, so we already have like this acceleration with Moore's law. Semiconductor chips basically are doubling in size and cutting half in cost roughly every 18 months, and that exponential curve has alongside it this exponential increase in the capability and cost effectiveness of advanced analytics and machine learning. So that singularity is going to drive the sort of digital twin revolution that I'm describing. And, from a science fiction perspective, let's say sometime in the future we have these amazing models, and it's not just the operational digital twins, it's also the design digital twins, right? Those are getting smarter and better. So if we could replay the entire nuclear power industry in the future, and instead of building nuclear plants based on one type of reactor design versus another, we could model them so accurately that the mistakes could be made virtually rather than in reality, and the optimization could be made before you build something completely. Imagine like that kind of capability for other industries and for that industry. That's the kind of thing we need. We can't afford to make the mistakes we used to make, right?
No, that
yeah, it's exciting, isn't it?
Really good point. Peter, I want to say thank you so much for your time today. This has been a very insightful and eye-opening conversation. How can somebody listening to this podcast keep in touch with you and keep following your amazing work that you're doing here at ARC?
Well, thanks for your work too, Gaven. And my webpage, among the analysts' webpage, would probably be the best thing because we always put each analyst's latest publications on their rolling lists on their webpage. So we can include that in our landing page for this great conversation that you've put together for me. Thanks.